Hello everyone. One beauty brand that many people seem to like a whole lot is Chanel. And this is a brand that I've been really interested in for a while myself, but it did seem to me like until very recently, pretty much everything that they offered had ingredients in it that seemed likely to irritate my own sensitive skin. And this is especially the case since most things had fragrance in them and also some had aluminum powder. But very recently, over the past year or two, there have been a number of products that have been introduced by Chanel that don't have those ingredients in them and that I have been able to use. So I thought that it was about time to create a video on these products. So among the products that I want to discuss today are this particular powder blush, which is from their Healthy Winter Glow winter collection for 2024 that just came out a couple of weeks ago. In addition, I have this highlighter, which is called Les Symboles de Chanel, which has worked well for me. I also have found several complexion products that don't have fragrance in them, so I will be discussing all of these products. And I have been a fan for a while of their lip pencils, so I will be discussing some of those. And there is a Baume highlighter in a stick that has turned out to be a good product for me, so I like that one. And I also found that there's a mascara that has not irritated my eyes that I have been able to use, and there's a few skincare products that also seem okay for me. So between all of these things, I have almost a full face of makeup, and so I will be able to discuss all of these products with you and let you know what you can expect if you decide to go ahead and get them yourself. And I'm shooting all of these products here in natural light so you can get a good sense of what they actually look like in the real world. And so first, a little bit of information about me. I'm 59 years old and I do have very sensitive skin, and I've never had any kind of cosmetic procedures like injections or surgery, and I don't intend to do that. So my goal with trying out makeup and skincare products is to hopefully look a little bit fresher and maybe even a little bit younger. And over the past 3 years, I've tried out more than 1,000 makeup products and also more than 1,000 skincare products. And so I have a pretty good basis of comparison for everything that I try out on this channel. And I have found that there are certain ingredients, including the fragrance and the aluminum powder and a few others, that do always irritate my skin. So I just don't talk about products that include those ingredients here on this channel. So it does seem to me that Chanel's primary target market is women who are getting a bit older and who want to have a kind of a refined and understated makeup look, which is kind of what I'm looking for the most part also. So even though I never have felt like I was a big fan of Chanel, and I've never felt a big compulsion to buy any of their clothes or bags or anything like that, I do think that it's interesting to try out some of their products as long as they're not irritating my skin, to see how well they work for me in terms of the kind of makeup that I want to wear. It also seems to me that Chanel is a little bit more popular than usual right now, and that they're even kind of having a little bit of a moment. So for instance, there's one YouTube channel that I watch pretty regularly, which is called Not Fit for Print Beauty, which is run by a longtime beauty journalist, and she did a survey of her viewership, and Chanel was voted the #1 brand that people buy over and over again, and that they think is expensive but worth it, and also that was tied with Natasha Denona as sort of the #1 brand for the year. And I think that this is kind of interesting, and that makes me want to try out more of their products to see what exactly people are liking about it. Now, the issue with Chanel for me, for the most part, is that they are a fragrance house, and so therefore they have tended to put fragrance into pretty much everything that they offer. Now, part of that is because of sort of their pride in their fragrance, and I think French people in general do seem to think that even if they are offering products that are really fairly clean in general, that fragrance is something that they can just throw in anyway. And I think it's also the case that they think that it's contributing to the sensorial experience of it. And I've been told recently that some of these luxury companies put in fragrance so that it's easier to identify counterfeits. And none of these really seem to me to be great reasons to continue to put fragrance in products, because I do think there's an awfully lot of people who have found that they either don't like the smell of the product or that it irritates their skin. And for me, especially with the fragrances from Chanel, I'm less concerned about the smell of the product, and I'm more concerned about the fact that I have yet to find any kind of synthetic fragrance that doesn't irritate my skin. And that doesn't really matter if they're saying that it's a clean fragrance, it's just that my skin just doesn't tolerate that. And I think that's the case for many other people as well. So it does seem to be the case that Chanel is experimenting with having some products now that don't have fragrance in them, and I'm really happy to see that. Now, it was the case at the beginning of 2022, Chanel introduced a line of products called Number One de Chanel, and I was really enthusiastic about that because they were promoting it as basically a natural line that seemed to be skewing more younger and competing against clean beauty products, but they actually did put fragrance in that, and all of the products in that line, except for the eye cream, did have fragrance in it. And someone from Chanel did look into it for me and reported back to me that the fragrance in the product was a combination of synthetic fragrance and natural fragrance. Now with the foundation, I did try it on at Ulta. I had someone apply it to my whole face, and my face did itch quite a bit. And then I did pick up this lip and cheek balm in that line, and it has perfume in it. It tastes like perfume. It did irritate my lips. I found that I was able to wear it on my skin if I was wearing a heavy foundation under it. But in general, I would really prefer it not have any fragrance in it at all. And it's really too bad that they put fragrance in these things, because I did find that both of these products worked really well for me, apart from the irritation factor. And then the other product that Chanel uses a lot, especially in their eye products, is aluminum powder. So they are not putting fragrance in their eye products for the most part, so that part is good, but aluminum powder is also something that I personally find to be very irritating. And there's an increasing number of eyeshadow companies that are not putting aluminum powder in their products. So for instance, Pat McGrath seems to be omitting that from all of their products. YSL and Guerlain and NARS, I haven't seen any aluminum powder in any of those products that have been released over the past couple years. And then Dior and Lisa Eldridge and Lancome and Natasha Denona are putting aluminum powder in some of their palettes and leaving it out of others. So I am hoping that maybe Chanel will come around and start to offer some eyeshadow palettes that don't have aluminum powder in it as well. Now the good thing is that Chanel is no longer including Teflon in any of their products, and I'm not seeing parabens in any of the products that they're currently offering. So things are getting better, and hopefully that will continue to be the case. So I've been trying out these products for a while now, and then I shot some footage of myself putting on these products as part of a few overall makeup looks. So I will talk about each product individually, and then I will insert the footage. So first let's talk about complexion products, and I found 4 products from Chanel that do not have any fragrance in them and that I thought would have potential for me. And all 4 of these products are listed in their concealer section, and then some of them also have potential to be used as overall foundation as well. So the first one is from the Beiges line, and this is called the Water Fresh Complexion Touch. So this is a foundation that has a fair amount of pigment in it that you can use either as a concealer or, according to Chanel, over your whole face. And then there's a second product which is in the Sublimage line, and this is a concealer, and it's a pot concealer, so it's quite thick, and it's said to be something that you can use under your eyes especially, and that is supposed to do a little bit of color correcting as well as concealing. And then they have 2 other products that are more like just standard doe foot type concealers. One is a regular concealer that comes in a variety of shades, and then there also is a color corrector. So I thought I would start off by talking about the product that is the most expensive and that I find to be the most interesting, which is called Sublimage Le Correcteur Yeux, and it comes in this little pot, and it costs a whopping $105. So that is more expensive than most of the foundations that I have tried, and it is certainly the most expensive concealer that I have ever tried. So it was interesting to give this a shot. So this product was released about a year ago, and it's part of the Chanel Sublimage line, which is a particularly expensive line of skincare products, and then they also offer a few foundation products in that line. And it was, until a week or so ago, it was $95, and then they have since jacked this price up to $105, so it's even more expensive than before. And it comes in this little pot. So first of all, there is a foundation that also comes in a little pot like this, but that does have fragrance in it, and it's also a silicone foundation. So this is a product that a lot of people have had some complaints about because it tends to be really messy to use and therefore a bit of a pain. So in order to use this product, you need to open the top of the lid, and it tends to be kind of messy on the top here. So, and then they give you this little spatula, which is just plastic, that in theory you should be able to dip into the container so you don't have to put your fingers in there, and then in theory you can wash this after you're done with it. And then they suggest that you put that on your hand, and then you take this little brush, which comes in this little case. You take this out, you take a teeny tiny bit of this, and then you can apply this to the under eye area. And then you can smudge it in with your fingers or with another brush. So all of this has the potential of being really messy, and I think that this step, where I'm putting this little brush directly into the foundation and then brushing it on my under eyes, that makes the brush need to be washed on a regular basis, which is a little bit of an extra chore for me. And this plastic spatula I don't think is all that attractive and not something that I'm really all that inclined to use that often. And that's especially the case because I feel like this is something that would get lost in my bathroom really easily. And I feel like what this reminds me of a lot is the Jones Road What the Foundation, except that comes in a larger jar because it's supposed to be a foundation product. And I purchased a little metal spatula to go with that, and I think that's a little bit easier to keep from losing. But in general, I think all of these kinds of products that require you to open the container like this, that's a good way to feel like the product is not very sanitary and especially messy. So now let's talk about the shades. And the shades seem to me to be kind of similar to the regular Chanel numbering system for their regular concealers or for their foundations, but it's also a little bit different. So for the regular foundations and concealers, they put a B or a BD in front of each of the numbers, whereas with this one, they're just giving regular numbers. So for instance, the shade that I have is a 10, and if we're looking at B10, then that is typically described as a light shade with a neutral undertone. And to a certain extent, I think this is appropriate for my light skin, so I don't think that it's totally off, but I also think that this is quite a bit pinker than most of the foundations in their line. And I think that that is probably purposeful because they are saying that this is a concealer or corrector Yeux, which is for the eyes, and they really seem to be developing this primarily just to put under the under eyes. And so therefore I think that the reason that this is a little bit on the pinkish side is because it's serving a little bit as a color corrector as well as a concealer. So this is a trick that I've learned a while back from a MAC representative, that because I have fairly dark circles under my eyes, that person suggested that I might want to get a concealer that was a little bit more on the pink side, and that would serve as a mild color corrector under my eyes. And I think that that has been the case when I've purchased concealer shades in general, that if I buy ones that are more pink, then they do seem to work better under my eyes, and I think that that's why this one is more pink as well. So what I want to point out to begin with is first that this is a really, really high coverage product if you apply it like that. And you really, if you put on the amount of concealer that I would usually put on, it is a lot of concealer. So you really don't need to put very much of this at all on the under eyes in order to get a lot of concealing from it. So I have experimented with putting on different amounts, and I do think that if I use just a very small amount of it, that it does do a good job of covering up my dark circles. And I do think it really is the case that if I use it like this, even in a fairly high amount of it, that it really doesn't exacerbate the look of my wrinkles, and that it actually does have a little bit of a smoothing effect, and that it does look pretty natural, and it doesn't look like I'm wearing a whole lot of makeup. So overall, I think that using it as they instruct does turn out to be a nice look on my eyes. Now, because Chanel does not offer the Sublimage product in a foundation that doesn't have a perfume in it, I decided to try this mixed with a little bit of moisturizer and then used more broadly over my whole face. So this is a trick that I have been using recently with foundations that are a little bit too high coverage for me, and I decided to try that with this one as well. So usually when I do this, I will use this particular moisturizer, which is from the Outset, and it is called the Nourishing Squalane Daily Moisturizer. And I think that this is a good product to mix with at least silicone-free foundations in order to thin them out a little bit and create a nice look on my skin. And so this does not include any silicone in it, and I think it really does mix very easily with a moisturizer like this. And then all that I've been doing is just mixing it together in my hands like this, and then putting a thin layer on my face, and then going back in and putting just a tiny bit more of the concealer on top just to fill in any areas that look like they still need a little bit more concealing. And I feel like when I've done that, it actually has worked out really well for me, and that I'm getting a considerable amount of coverage because this is such a high pigment formula, but that it is not exacerbating the look of my wrinkles at all, and it actually is creating some slightly more radiant and a smoother and sort of prettier look. So in terms of foundations that I have tried just in general or recently, I think that this has actually been working really, really well for me. I've been really surprised at how much I've liked it. Now, the other thing that has made this much more workable for me is because I have decided that opening that huge jar all the time is not very sanitary and too messy. And so I just took a small amount of that product and I transferred it into this very small jar. And this is a glass jar that I had a sample of eye cream in. And so this has been working really, really well for me. So in order to use this product, all I need to do is just take my finger and take just a tiny bit of the product out, and then I can use that either to mix with, or I can use this to apply a little bit more to my face. I don't feel like I need to use the brush at all when I do that. I can just kind of blend it in on a spot basis as needed, or I can take a little bit more and mix it to use over my whole face. And then I don't feel like the jar is going to get to the point where I'm not able to use it because it's become somehow contaminated. So I feel like I like this product much, much more now that I have transferred a small amount into this jar. And I feel like it's really, I'm not using very much of this product at all, so it should last me for a long time. It's supposed to last for at least a year in the product category, in the product container. So I think that if I use it this way, it should probably last even longer, I would think. Now, it is the case that this has somewhat of a pink tint, so that might not work for everyone. But I feel like on my skin, if I thin it out with the moisturizer, that it's providing just a very small amount of a pink look to my skin, and I think that's probably okay. I think it's similar to what I would be getting if I were to be using a pink setting powder on my skin, so that it is just offering a little bit more of a look of like I have blood flow to my skin and that I look kind of healthy and sort of prettier. And so I don't think that that has been working badly at all for me, even though it's probably a little bit more pink than my skin actually is. Now, because I use usually a really light amount of foundation, I thought that what I would do is try using more of this product just to show you what it might look like if you tried to use more on the skin. And I was really surprised to find out that when I use it that way, that I still don't feel like my skin is having the wrinkles exacerbated. I feel like it's still looking very natural and kind of elegant looking and kind of like refined, like I'm not really trying to draw attention to the fact that I'm wearing makeup. And so I've been really happy with it compared to really all of the foundations that I have tried. I think that this one is actually looking really nice. Now, I haven't tried on the other Sublimage, the foundation in this that is designed to be a foundation, so maybe I would like that even more, and if they would take the fragrance out of it, then I would give it a try. But I think that for me, this is working really well, and I'm actually really happy it doesn't have silicone in it, because I don't really feel like wearing foundation with silicone in it on a regular basis is that great for my skin. I feel like it tends to cause there to be stuff that's under the silicone and that it tends to be irritating to my skin. And so I think this has been perfectly fine. And it's held up really well. I spent a lot of time doing exercise with this on in terms of being outside when I was sweating a bit, and I think it's held up really well for me. I also feel like it doesn't have silicone in it, so it's comfortable for me, and it does come off fairly easily when I use some kind of makeup removal balm on it. So I have, in general, been really, really happy with it, and I've been really surprised at how nice it looks on my skin. Now, there are some moisturizing ingredients in this, so it might be the case that if you don't have dry skin like mine, that you might not want to use it really liberally on your skin because it might be more moisture than you can handle. But for me, I think that the moisturizing components of this particular concealer used as a foundation has actually been a really good thing. So one thing that I have found is that if I mix this with a moisturizer and then I put it on my skin and then I just leave it for like 10 minutes or so, that it really all sinks into my skin and I really don't need to use powder on it at all. But I also feel like if I just take a small amount of a powder and I put it on the top, that can speed up that process a lot and that it still looks really nice. So now let's talk about the powder highlighters that Chanel released this past fall of 2023. And there are 3 different colors of the highlighters. There's a peach one, which is the one that I have, and then there is also an icy white color, and there is a gold color. And then there are also 5 different designs, because this is a Beiges Gelée formula, so you can have the design imprinted into the product itself. So this is a lion, and there are 4 other designs, and all of the designs are supposed to have a particular association with Coco Chanel. So in this case, I think that this lion is because she was a Leo, and that's also my sun sign. So I decided to get this one rather than one of the others. And some of these are already sold out. It was a limited edition, but some of them are still available on the Chanel site. And if you look around, you might be able to find whichever ones you want if you're actually interested in buying this. So this is what I consider to be a fairly elegant highlighter. I can put on quite a bit of this, and I don't think it looks too shiny or too obtrusive. And it certainly is a very large highlighter, and it, I think, only has like an 18-month usage life listed here. And so I probably won't be using this up before the 18 months are over. But on the other hand, I do think that it's something that you can use on a regular basis, and it doesn't stand out too much. And I think it's probably more of a collector's item, but I think it's been very nice for me. Now, the product doesn't have any talc in it. It doesn't have any fragrance in it. It does have squalane in it, which I think is probably a good thing for my skin in terms of moisturizing. It does have a few other ingredients in it that conceivably could be irritating for some people, but I feel like it's been fine for my skin, regardless of whether I have put it on top of foundation or directly on bare skin. And I think it's nice as just something that you can use sort of like as a what I would consider to be like a closer type of a product where you just put a little bit of a finish on your skin to make it look a little bit more refined and finished. Now, the product that I would most compare it to is the RMS highlighter, which was released recently. They're calling it a luminizer that's in a powder format that's very similar to their powder blushes. And I would say that comparing that RMS product to this one, I think I like the RMS one more. And I also think that it's certainly less expensive. But I also think that this is a cute little collector's item, and that it has worked well for me, and it certainly is something that I can use. So now let's move on and talk about the powder blush that I have. And this is part of the Chanel Healthy Winter Glow line of products that was released toward the beginning of January in 2024. So most of the products in this line are ones that have ingredients that I am not able to tolerate, but this one is fragrance free and it seems to have been fine for me. So it comes in this little case and it has a little snowflake design on it, which I think is very cute. There are 3 colors of this blush. One is a pink color that looks very, very light in terms of when I see people with light skin applying it. And then there's this one, which is coral, and it has a tiny little bit of a gold shimmer to it. And then there's one that's a little bit darker that has a little bit more of a burgundy, purplish type color to it. But I think that all 3 of these, from what I've seen, have been perfectly appropriate for people with light skin. I think that if you have darker skin, you might be able to build these up in order to work on your skin, but I think it would take a lot more effort. And the thing that I think is a little bit nice about this is that it does come with its own brush. So you can take this little plastic lid here, and then it comes with this brush that you can just pop on the top and then close it. So if you want to carry something around and then put on blush, powder blush in your purse, that this would be a good option, and I think it would work well for that. I do think that when I have used this little brush that it tends to not put on a whole lot of product on my skin, but that's not necessarily a bad thing either, especially if it's something that you can apply a variety of times throughout the day. And I do think this is a really pretty color of the blush. It just is a little bit on the muted side, but I think in general that Chanel products do tend to be on the muted side, and maybe that's a good thing. So again, this product does not have any talc in it. It does not have any fragrance in it. And I have found that even though it has a few ingredients in it that I thought were a little bit questionable, when I have used it either directly on my skin or over foundation, it has worked perfectly fine for me. So I've been really happy about that. Now, I think that the most obvious comparison for this, again, would be the RMS blushes, and those all have just a little tiny bit of a shimmer in them, but they're about at the same level of shimmer as this has. I feel like I do like the RMS blushes a tiny little bit more, but I think that they are very similar. So the RMS blushes are obviously much less expensive than these, and they do come in more shades. They don't have their own little included brush in them, but in general, I am still a really big fan of those RMS blushes, but as a change of pace and something to carry around with you, I think this one's actually kind of nice. So in general, I feel like although I'm not really feeling that drawn to go out and get more colors in this particular blush, I feel like it's been enough of a success that if Chanel offers more blushes that don't have a fragrance in them in another line, then I might be open to buying more of them because I do like this one a lot. So now let's talk about lip pencils, and I did a video several months ago where I tried on a whole bunch of different lip pencils, and I found that the Chanel ones were the ones that I liked by far the most. I do kind of like the Victoria Beckham ones also, and I like the Lisa Eldridge ones for certain types of uses, but just as general lip pencils, I really feel like these Chanel pencils are at the top of the list, and I wouldn't mind really just using Chanel lip pencils from now on and not using any others. So I think that these work really well for me, both in terms of being used on their own with maybe just a little bit of lip balm over them, and also as a base for putting on a brighter lipstick. And these lip pencils are $35, and that is a little expensive for a lip pencil, but for something from Chanel and for the quality that they're offering, it's really not that much more than what other brands are charging. And I think that they really perform very well. So they are not too soft, but they are soft enough to go on really easily. And they have a little brush on the end here, so I can use that to brush the lip pencil around my lips, and so it offers a full base of lip products, and then I can very easily put just a little bit of lip balm over the top of it, and I think it looks very natural and very understated, but again gives me some really pretty color. Now I do like the colors that I have seen them offering. They're 18 shades, and I have 3 of them so far. So in this footage I am putting on one that's called Rouge Brique, or Brick Red, and this has just a little bit of an orange color to it. And then I have 2 other colors that I have tried so far. One is called Bois de Rose, which is a rosewood type of a color. And then I have one that's called Pivoine, which they are saying is a mauvey rosewood, but which is technically translated as peony. And there's one that's a cherry red that I would like to pick up, and that one is a Rouge Cerise, and that one is just a bright red that I think would be a good general purpose red lipstick color. So almost always when I use a lip pencil on my lips, I put it on over some kind of a lip primer, and the one that I like most is from MAC, which is their Prep Plus Prime Lips. I think that that one has worked really well for me. It does have silicone in it, and it has some vanilla in it, but in general I think it's worked really well for me, and it hasn't ever caused me any irritation or anything like that. And so now let's take a little detour and talk about a few skincare products that I have tried. So the one skincare product from Chanel that I have actually purchased and used up the entire container was the #1 de Chanel Crème Yeux Revitalisante Eau Camellia Rouge, which is $80. So this is the eye cream from the #1 de Chanel line, and that line is designed to contain Camellia japonica extract and oil in it, so that is what's also known as Subaki oil, and I think that that felt really good to me. I didn't have any problems with that eye cream at all. It didn't irritate my eyes at all. I think the ingredient list in general looked pretty good to me. So that eye cream does have a peptide in it. The peptide is called palmitoyl tetrapeptide 7, which is supposed to serve as a signal to the skin to focus more on regeneration. So I did use up the entire container of that eye cream over a period of about 6 months, and I feel like I was alternating that with some other products that I used under my eyes. And in general, I feel like of the eye creams that I've tried, it has been perfectly fine. It hasn't been irritating. I feel like my eyes seem to enjoy it, and I think my eyes over time have started to look better as a result of the products that I put on them, and so I think this is one of the products that I have had a good experience with. I don't know if I would buy it again at that price, but I think that there are other things that I've been using that have worked well also, but I do feel good about this one, and I certainly feel like if I had some of it, I would continue to use it. Now, more recently, I got a sample of another eye cream of theirs, which is called the Chanel Hydra Beauty Micro Crème Yeux. And that one seems to be more of a light cream that is focused on hydration. It doesn't have that peptide in it. It has a few ingredients in it that I don't feel really excited about, that I think could conceivably be irritating. It has meadow foam seed oil, sodium hyaluronate in it. I think if I were going to buy another eye cream from Chanel, it would be the #1, the Chanel one. I don't think I would buy that Hydra one in it again, because I don't think it has as many ingredients in it that have potential to be helpful. And then they have 2 more eye creams that I have not tried. One is the Chanel Sublimage eye cream, which is a whopping $290. So see, that particular line of products can be really expensive. And even though that concealer is $105, it still is on the low side compared to all of the skincare products in that line. And supposedly everything in the Sublimage line, it's based on a vanilla planifolia, which is just regular vanilla, extract type vanilla. So it has polyfractionated vanilla, and then it also has shea butter, squalane, yeast extract, sodium hyaluronate, and then the same peptide as the #1 to Chanel. I would probably not purchase that, both because of the price and also because it includes a few ingredients that I feel a little nervous about. And then there's one more product that is called the Lift Eye Cream, which is $110, which is supposed to help with wrinkles. It has 2 different peptides, a fermented ingredient, squalane, sodium hyaluronate, Indian chestnut extract, alfalfa concentrate, and yeast extract. And it does include a few additives in it that I would be a little worried about. So I would want to try that one out before I actually bought it. Now, one more line of skincare products that don't have fragrance in them is new. I think it has just been out for a couple months. And this is called the Lift Pro line. And the Lift is the original line, and that one does include fragrance. But these new La Lift Pro, they don't include fragrance. And there are 3 products. One is a serum, there is a cream, and then there is a mask. And they say that these were developed in the Open Sky Laboratory in Costa Rica, where they are cultivating natural ingredients that they think might be useful in skincare. So in this case, they have cultivated honey that is made by Melipona bees, and supposedly this honey helps to reinforce the skin's support and reduces the look of dark spots. So it's supposed to be helpful both with evening out the skin tone and also making the skin look like it's more firm. So the one product that I got a sample of, a couple of samples actually, was the Chanel Le Lift Pro Mask Uniformité, which would be $220. And I thought this was fine. I kind of liked having it on my skin. I don't think it was irritating at all. It has supposedly honey, niacinamide, tiger leaf extract, sodium hyaluronate, yeast extract. Again, I'm not sure that this is worth $220, and I especially am not sure that I'm going to be buying something that's supposed to be for removing dark spots on the skin when that is not really my problem. But I was really happy to find that my skin did seem to like this product and that I did well with it. And I do think the ingredient list for this one looks okay. I didn't see anything in it that really concerned me. Now, there's also a serum, which is also quite expensive. That one has alcohol as the second ingredient, so just for that reason, I would be kind of concerned. And it also has chlorphenicin in it, which is a preservative that I think that sometimes I may react to a bit. And then it has several other ingredients in it that are similar to what's in that mask. And I don't feel like alcohol has been really terrible for my skin, but I feel like the alcohol in this product is pretty high up on the ingredient list. So I'd be concerned about that one. And then there's a cream that has several ingredients in it that I don't feel comfortable with, but that also has a number of ingredients that sound like they're okay. That one also has dimethicone in it, and I don't really like having silicone in my skincare products. So I feel like, in general, even if I was going to be spending a lot of money on skincare products, that probably those would not be the ones that I would choose. But I wouldn't mind trying them out to a more extensive degree without spending a lot of money on them to see how my skin did with them, because at least that mask has been fine for me. So now let's talk about a few more pieces of makeup that I have from Chanel. And the first one is called the Les Beiges Water Fresh Complexion Touch. So this is in a pump container, an airless pump container, and it has only about 2/3 of an ounce of product in here. They are saying that you can use it either for spot coverage on your face or you can use it over your entire face. Now, this is the second product from Chanel that they offer that's similar to this. They also offer one that is called the Water Fresh Tint, And that one does not have quite as much pigment in there. It has more serum, which you can see in this container, is that it really looks like the entire container is filled with these little balls of pigment. Whereas in the Water Fresh tint, to my understanding, it's not quite as much pigment in there, so you're not going to be getting coverage that is quite as heavy. Now, unfortunately, that product does have some fragrance in it, so I have not tried that one out, and I am assuming that it would be irritating to my skin. But this one, I guess because they are suggesting that it can be used as a concealer, they're not putting any fragrance in it. So I've used a couple of other products that I have heard are very, very similar to that Chanel Water Fresh tint product. One of those is from Rose Incorporated. This one's still on the market, and I still do like this one quite a lot. And then there was one from Jane Iredale, which was called Liquid Minerals, and this one seemed very similar to me to the Rose Incorporated one. This one has been taken off the market and replaced with another product from Jane Iredale, which has a lot less pigment in it and a lot more serum. So I feel like this one is really providing almost no coverage at all. But I do think it's a nice primer and that it provides a nice looking finish to my skin. So I have gotten some good use out of it because of that. But Chanel decided to go the other way, and rather than taking their product and putting less pigment in it, they actually put quite a lot more pigment in it. So this is a product that they are saying is more like a light coverage, but I think that you can pretty easily, if you put on even a fair amount of this, make it more like approaching what I would consider to be a medium coverage, for me anyway. And I feel like this is product that I was a little bit nervous about, but I have found that when I use this on my under eyes or on other parts of my face, I don't feel like it enhances my wrinkles at all. I think that it blurs them quite a bit and makes them look nicer. And I have tried it in a few different ways. I've tried it just for spot coverage. I've tried it straight from the bottle on my skin, and I have tried mixing it with some moisturizer. And I feel like it's worked really well for me for all of those uses. Without really making my wrinkles look worse and by giving my face a pretty finish that really doesn't look like I'm wearing too much makeup at all. So from those aspects, I really do like it quite a bit. And so you can see in the footage that I shot these different ways of applying this product. Now, I have found that this product does seem to be slightly irritating to my skin, so it really seems to depend on how my skin's doing before I put it on. If my skin is in really good shape and feeling kind of resilient, then I've been able to do fine with this product. There have been other times when my skin is kind of already irritated that this will also make it even a little bit more irritated and will cause some itching and some discomfort. So I'm a little bit disinclined to wear it very often, but in terms of how it looks on my skin, I think it's very nice, and I think it really depends on your particular reactivities and how sensitive people are to things. But in general, I think that this is a nice product if people can tolerate it. So in general, if I compare this to like the Rose Incorporated product, which is still on the market, I think that right out of the bottle, for me, the Rose Incorporated product seems to work better because it's thinner. But if I thin this down a bit with some moisturizer, I think that this looks just as nice and works just as well for me. And if you're looking for more coverage, then this could be something to try. And then the next product that I have here is called the Baume Essentiel. And this is a highlighter that is primarily giving a wet look to the skin. It's really not designed to give a lot of glittery look, but especially in this version, which is called Dragé, it's really just giving a shiny type of a look that's giving some more moisture to my skin without it actually looking sparkly. And I think that this is a really nice product, and it certainly is the case that this light pink color, it's really not showing up on my skin at all as pink. It's really just giving a little bit of moisture to my skin. So I feel like especially in the wintertime or when I'm looking for a look that's a little bit more hydrated and dewy looking, that this is a nice product for that. This comes in 5 shades. One is clear. There are 2 that have a little bit of a shimmer to them, and that really don't have a lot of shimmer, I don't think. One of those is called Sculpting, and the other one I think is called Rosy. And then there's one that's called Rouge Frais, or Fresh Red, I guess it's supposed to be. And that one actually looks like it actually is working more like a blush. So that actually is giving quite a bit of color to the cheeks. And then in addition, in the Spring Chanel collection, there is a product that is called Mermaid Glow, I think. And that one looks to me like it is a color that's fairly peachy, a little more peachy than my skin color. And that also has quite a bit of a shimmer to it, maybe more shimmer than any of these other products that they already have on the market. And that one should be just a special edition, I think. So this kind of wet look highlighter has become fairly popular, and I have several other competitors in this product that you might want to consider. So one of the ones that I like the most is from Victoria Beckham, and this one is available in 2 different shades. I have the one that's more neutral, and there's one that's more golden that's now available on the website as well. So I have really enjoyed this particular product a lot. There is also one from Violette FR, which is called Baume Sheen. And this is one that I have also gotten quite a bit of use out of. And I see that it's out of stock on the website right now, but this is one that I would also consider, particularly if you're planning to buy something else from Violette FR and you like their products. And then one I think is especially popular is from Westman Atelier, so in the Nectar color, which I think is fairly similar to the Draguet. This one is available in this small mini container that I have, and then it's also available in a large container. If you buy the large container, which has a really expensive case, then it's about the same price as the Chanel product. I feel like I like the Chanel product a bit more in terms of the texture. This one's just a little bit on the greasy side maybe, but I still do like this one, and I have gotten quite a bit of use out of both this shade and also the Brûlée shade, which I like an awfully lot. And then there's one product from Mob Beauty that I also like quite a bit. So these highlighters were released, I think, early in 2023, and they come in 4 shades, I think, and I've gotten quite a bit of use out of these. So in this case, there's one here that's champagne, there's one here that's bronze, and then this one has a kind of a clear with a little bit of shimmer to it. And then this is a product that has a lot more sparkle in it, so that's called their Sparkle Bomb. I would say that the highlighter from Merit also gives kind of a similar look, but I really wouldn't suggest buying that one because I found that it went rancid fairly quickly after I purchased it, and I've heard from maybe 6 more YouTubers that have reported the same thing. So I think that highlighters should last more than a few months before they start to smell bad. So unless they have fixed that problem, and I've not heard that they have, that is not a product that I would purchase again, even though I'm really a big fan of pretty much everything else that Merit has to offer. So I do feel like when I look, at least in this monitor, that even though I just put a little tiny bit of that Chanel product on my cheeks, it's definitely giving me a much different look. So I think that this is a product I like a lot, and if you look at the cost of the Chanel product versus some of these others, I think the Chanel product's really not that much more money, and I think it might be my favorite, at least in terms of this one shade. So I'm a little bit interested in getting another shade, maybe the one that's supposed to be the mermaid shade or maybe something else. Now, in terms of the concealer and the corrector that comes in the tube with the doe foot, I tried in the video footage putting the corrector on one side and the concealer on the other side. I do think a corrector looks nice under my eyes usually, and this one is a fairly light pink color. This comes in 4 different shades. 3 of them are for under-eye correctors, so they're more on the pink side, and they just are for different skin tones. And then there's one that's green, so if you have a lot of reddishness, reddish spots on your face, and you want to try to correct for those, then you might want to consider the green one, which I haven't tried. So even though I have found that for the most part that when I use a water-based concealer or a corrector like this, that it tends to emphasize emphasize the wrinkles, especially the ones around my eyes. With this, I think it's been okay. I think that they've been considerably better than many of the products that I have used, and that I've been able to use them both on their own, actually, or with a foundation over them. And I don't feel like these have been irritating to my skin. I don't feel like they're non-irritating enough that I want to use them on my eyelids, which I sometimes do as a eyelid primer. So I don't feel like they're that clean, but I feel like for the rest of my face, they've been okay. They haven't caused irritation, and I think they've worked pretty well. Now, for a concealer of $45, I think is what they cost. I think that is quite expensive, but at least they have performed well, and I think that I might be able to get some use out of these, even though this is not usually the kind of product that I use. So in the footage that I shot after I put down the concealer or the corrector, then I decided to put a foundation over the top of that. And the foundation that I decided to use was the Haus Labs one. And the reason for that is because I feel like the Haus Labs one has usually worked pretty well for me, that this is a pretty good color match. This is shade 100, which is supposed to be a light foundation with sort of peach undertones. And I felt like in the past that this has actually been a pretty good foundation in terms of how it's looked on my skin. So what I found to be interesting was that when I looked at this foundation, when I was putting it on both in the mirror and especially in the video footage, was that I felt like when I compared this to the Chanel products that I had just been trying out, I feel like this one does not really look all that refined or subtle at all, that it felt like it really looks much more like I have makeup on, and it looks like it's kind of not looking as good as it could on my face. So I thought that was really interesting, and I feel like that maybe my standards have been raised a bit by experimenting with all of these Chanel products, but I really didn't realize kind of how much I was liking the way that my face looked with the Chanel products on it, both the Sublimage one and also the Beiges Waterfresh Touch, Complexion Touch product. I feel like both of those look really, really good on my skin. And when I compare a product like this, that would be more what I would typically use as an example of a really good foundation, I feel like it's coming up a little bit short. So again, that makes me really impressed with the Chanel, and hoping that they will come out with some more products that don't include fragrance and that don't include other ingredients that keep me from using it. And then finally, I got some little mascara samples as a gift with purchase. So I have one here that is a base, so it is a clear color, and it is supposed to be good for your lashes, and it's also supposed to serve as a primer. And then I have this product, which is the black color of their product that's called Le Volume de Chanel. And I feel like neither of those products has irritated my eyes at all, which was a real surprise, because I do have very, very sensitive eyes, and usually when I use mascaras, they do irritate my eyes. It's really unusual for me to find ones that I can tolerate. And a lot of times even ones that are supposed to be clean beauty are irritating for me. But both of these have turned out to be fine. The ingredient lists don't look all that bad to me. And so I was really happy about that. I do feel like this mascara, this is one of those mascaras that is kind of messy when you put it on. And I think that for me, it's been kind of similar to what I thought of the Ritual de Fille mascara that I tried on in a couple of videos ago, which is that it's sort of more like a paste formula, at least in this trial form, which it has this tiny little applicator, but I feel like the actual product, it's kind of thick, and that I really do need to wipe it off pretty thoroughly before I put any on. But when I have put it on, it's also been a little bit on the messy side, so I feel like it does kind of cause my eyelashes to stick together a little bit, and that if I really want a totally more natural look, then I'm really needing to use a spoolie on it. So if you're looking for a mascara that gives you more of a defined look, where the lashes are a little bit darker and that they are a little bit more volume to them, then this could be one to use. I tend to be more drawn to tubing mascaras, which go on really easily. and which look really natural, almost like I'm not wearing any mascara, but really just making my eyelashes darker. And so this is one that I'm not real inclined to buy myself, but I think that if you are looking for a mascara that has a more defined look and that but that might have a chance of not irritating your eyes, then this could be one to choose. Now, one other thing that I will say is that when I looked at the ingredient list on Ulta, which only carries the black version, that does not mention aluminum powder in the ingredients. But when I looked at the ingredient list on the Chanel site, it lists aluminum powder in the may contain ingredient list. And there are two other shades of this. One is a brown, and I think one is like a dark blue. And so I think it might be the case that one of those other shades has aluminum powder in it, so I definitely would not want to get that one, even though I am a big fan of brown mascara. So I wrote a letter to Chanel and I asked them about this question. So if I can find out whether or not any of these shades might have aluminum powder in them, then I will write that in the comments section for this video. So I think that all in all, it's been a really interesting thing for me to experiment with some of these Chanel products. And that even though some of them have been a little bit of a pain to apply or they haven't really worked out as I anticipated, I think that all of them do look really nice on my skin and that most of them have worked out fine for me in terms of not being irritated. I really do hope that they will introduce a few more products into the future that don't include fragrance and that don't include aluminum powder and that do have ingredients that are tolerable to most people with sensitive skin. I think especially as people get older, they do tend to have more sensitive skin, and I think that these products can be really helpful for a lot of people as they get older. So hopefully Chanel will start to realize that more and start to introduce more products that more of us can use. So thank you very much for watching all the way to the end of the video. And if you have tried any Chanel products, then I hope you will let me know what you experienced with them in the comments section. In addition, if you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, then I hope you will go ahead and do that. And Coco and I love you very much. So thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.